Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we introduce Mark Deluxe and stealthily delist the original $20 mark. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including Pikmin 3 Deluxe and Animal Crossing New Horizons just crushing it. And then on Thursday, we're back for part 2 of the ABCs of Nintendo Sci-Fi. But Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Can I bring something to the attention of all of our listeners?
You must now, yes.
So, I feel a little bit like NPR, where like every 6 months or so, we don't bug you for podcast reviews, and then every 6 months or so, I get a little bit antsy. And I noticed in Apple Podcasts, in the US Apple Podcast Store, we haven't had a review since like April. And so I'm just putting it out there, bringing it to everybody's attention that we love podcast reviews wherever you get podcasts. It helps us out, the show out a bunch. We'd love to read your feedback. So please, if you haven't yet, take a little bit of time, leave us a review wherever you get your podcast. It helps us out a ton.
Yeah, and we're not a news show, right? So we're never going to show up in the new and noteworthy, right? So the only way to like move us up any sort of Apple Podcast charts is to rate and review. Also, I guess sharing the episodes also would help too. All of that normal stuff. But in particular, if you could leave a review on Apple Podcasts, that's great. Reviews wherever they are help, but for whatever reason, that's the one metric we stick to. Where we're like, that's where we want the reviews. Mark, that's where they count.
Well, it's the place I check.
Yes. It counts in our hearts, I guess. Speaking of things that count in our hearts, the Sonic Forces borrowing program is alive again. Would you like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces? You can. All you got to do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com and give us a mailing address where we can send you my copy of this game for the Switch, and then you send it back, and it doesn't cost you anything. I pay for postage. Both way, we're supporting the United States Postal Service, and after a long hiatus, we are back. If you are on this list and check your inbox, maybe I've emailed you to make sure that you still live at that address / are still interested in playing the game. We'll find out, and I will move on to the next person shortly. All right, Mark, are you ready to get into what we've been playing this week?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, so I'm continue to play Paper Mario: The Origami King. I just knocked out the yellow ribbon. There's one that takes place in the desert. I'm blanking on what color it was right now. But I'm still a lot of fun, enjoying it. Don't have a ton more to say on it, except that I think it's taking me like a long time to play this game. And I don't know why. Like, before I said, last time I talked about it, I was like, oh, I think I'm at like 5 hours long. No, I was at like 10 hours, and now I think I'm over 20 hours. And I am guessing on by the number of ribbons that I'm like halfway through the game, maybe a little over halfway through the game. So I think I'm really slow at it, and I don't know why compared to everybody else.
Maybe you're just taking it at a leisurely pace.
Yeah, that could be.
Or do you really feel like your nose in the grindstone? Like, really?
Well, no, that's the thing, is that I don't feel like I'm taking like an especially long time to like do the battles or anything, but I wonder if I am trying to get all of like the collectibles and everything, and I'm trying to not look at a guide. So I guess like I'm not very good at that part. So maybe like having to like do all the discovery and like trudging through it and everything like that, I for sure, now that I'm saying it out loud, is 100% adding a ton of time to the game.
This isn't a Nintendo game, but it is most of what I've been playing this last week. Is I finished Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order on the PlayStation 4. I still love that game. It is really buggy. I think it hard crashed on me 4 or 5 times, like kicked me all the way out to the main menu, and textures load in real late. We talked about it last week. Basically, just in the framing of like, it's so nice that Nintendo games don't really do that. But I liked this game well enough that it was my very first PlayStation Platinum trophy. I got everything.
Wow,
I
that's
played that
awesome.
game until it's done and gone.
Did you have to play it on like a certain difficulty level in order to get like the completion trophies?
No, thankfully,
Yeah, that's nice.
all of the trophies are like either like specific combat scenario oriented or story oriented, or like collect all the this things, collect all the this things, level up all your Jedi powers. Yeah, but I really like the game. I felt like the ending did not play the same theme as the rest of the game, which was odd. But other than that, it was a super satisfying experience. I won't talk more about it because you can't play it on a Switch.
Well, I want to hear more about it. We should talk about it, not on
Yeah,
this
we will.
podcast.
We will.
I've also been playing Just Dance 2020. I picked it up a few weeks ago, maybe even a couple months ago when it was on sale on the eShop. I have a lot of fond memories of this series, but I haven't played it since the Wii days. So it's been many years since I played one. But one
You
thing
could still be playing this game on the Wii.
yeah, no, that's a great point. One thing that was my husband and I were playing this, and one thing that was really fun for me is that it has like a bunch of new songs, and it has like Just Dance is very different now than it was. I mean, the basics are the same, but like it has like online components, and it has like a whole like subscription service to get a ton more songs.
Oh.
Yeah, so you can like subscribe. I think it's like 6, 7, something like that bucks a month, and then it had like the library of songs is enormous. But one thing it had that I appreciated was it has like a classic mode where it has select songs from previous Just Dance games, and it had a lot of the ones that like I remember having a lot of fun with, and like it's fun to have like the choreography and all that stuff exactly the same. So we had a really
Yeah.
good time playing it. It's just I really like the series. Like I get why it sells. Like it's fun. I've been enjoying Just Dance 2020.
They continue to put those out on like all platforms, right? It's not just a Switch and Wii series at this point.
So
It's all motion
I'm
control, right?
right. It is motion control. But one thing that's interesting with this version, and I actually do not know for sure what platforms Just Dance 2020 is on, but I think it could be on PlayStation 4 and Xbox because even if it doesn't have motion controls, because one of the things that is new to me in this version is you don't have to have a Joy-Con. People can join using their phones. And so it uses like the
Oh.
accelerometer in your like phone to tell if you're playing along, which I think is like really cool because we only have a couple of Joy-Con, but eventually in the future, if I was able to play this with like a larger group, it would be great to not have to worry about that. Like everybody could join in as long as you have a phone.
That stuff's so smart. To bring up PlayStation again, they used to have that series of like PlayLink games that was all like people used their phones and, kind of really took advantage of the fact that like everyone had their own little personal screen and could select things secretly. And I think that that's always just so smart when console gaming like links right up with the phone and like makes that an integral part. Like it's the kind of stuff that would take a special dedicated, like the Wii U, right?
Yeah.
Like it's and then just like no, everyone in the world has their own personal Wii U gamepad in their pocket.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things where like it makes so much sense. So like when I saw that I was like, wow, like it feels like magic a little bit. You're like, wow, that's so cool.
Hmm.
Like it's one of those things where you'd be like, they should do this, and then they did.
Yeah.
One like mode that's new to me in this version of the game is as part of online. They have like Just Dance World or something where you can see how many people are online playing at the same time, and you're all dancing to like the same song, and so you're kind of like competing against each other, and you see the leaderboards like where your position like moving up and down depending on how good you're doing the moves, and the people who were like winning were, doing like 5 stars, like perfect all the way. And I would love to see video of these people doing it. Like, are they actually like up and dancing, or are they like sitting on their couch and just like, they're just like, they just know how to like move their
Yeah.
phone or like their Joy-Con in just the right way for the accelerometer to trigger? Like, I'd love to see a speed run of Just Dance.
See the glitch community get a hold of it.
Yeah.
Really. So I have been playing a lot of Game Boy Advance games on my Wii U. Mark, you and I were talking about this off mic last week. But in lieu of picking up Paper Mario: The Origami King the other week, I was just like, you know what? I have so many Game Boy Advance games that I didn't play that I know are like legendary and that deserve my attention, that I've never played, that I would like to buy on the Wii U. I'm just going to put $50 on my Wii U eShop, which is not a sentence anyone has said in 2020 except for me. And then I just started picking up. I just started picking up Game Boy Advance games at $8 a pop, or $7 a pop for something like Mario Pinball Land or Donkey Kong King of Swing. But one of the games that I picked up is F-Zero GP Legend. Mark, are you familiar with F-Zero GP Legend?
Only in name.
So it is one of the last F-Zero games that was that featured the like Mode 7 style graphics. Everything that came after that was like fully 3D and polygons and stuff. And GP Legend is also based on the anime of the same name. So in addition to having all of the normal sort of F-Zero racing that is exciting and fun and has cool tracks and great music and stuff, it also has a story mode which tracks these characters' convoluted relationships and like all of these. It's nuts. It is an absolutely wild story mode, and has given me a new appreciation for a number of different F-Zero characters and locations and stuff. But one of the things that I really, really like about the story mode is that each chapter contains like a little challenge, and so rarely is the challenge win a race, right? It's like one in like each character, each separate character has their own separate story, and I think each one of them has one of those where it's just like win a race. But it's usually like catch up to this specific racer in this weird little like sampling of track, or like finish a lap of this in under 30 seconds or something, like very specific, and with like not just specific win conditions, but also just like separate unique things happening on the track. So it's really, I don't think I've ever had an experience with F-Zero before where I've understood how to get better, or when I'm getting better, or when I'm doing something right. Like for whatever reason, the sort of sonic and visual feedback loop doesn't work for me. I just can't tell when I'm like doing better or when I'm doing worse. Obviously, when I'm like running into stuff, I know I'm doing bad. But like the cues for when you've taken a corner exceptionally well aren't the same as in like Mario Kart, for example. But in this, when it is a tiny bite-sized challenge and you just got to like do this thing in 30 seconds, and when you don't do it in those 30 seconds, you hit retry and you're trying it again in 3 or 4 seconds, means that you can like see the incremental gains, and you can see like the progress you're making, and it feels really good. I'm really enjoying F-Zero GP Legend.
That's awesome. I've, outside of the Super Nintendo game, I haven't really played very many of them. We have been talking about F-Zero a little bit in our ABCs of Nintendo Sci-Fi, and last night I was
and we'll
reading...
continue to do so.
That's right, on Thursday. And last night I was reading. It's gotten me in the mood to like look more into this stuff, especially like F-Zero, a series who like the characters I don't really know that much about. And so I've talked about before that all the manuals for the games that are on the SNES Classic Edition are online. And so I was reading through like the user manual for F-Zero, and like the backstory for like F-Zero racing is really funny. It's basically like billionaires were really rich, they were bored, they were like, how about we do this thing? In the beginning, like there were all these hazards on the track, and people were like, wow, this is like the public was like, wow, this is way too dangerous. But then after time, everybody just got used to it, and now they're like super into it for the thrill. Captain Falcon is like everybody in this universe is a bounty hunter. You're either
Everyone
super
hunts
rich
bounty. Yep.
or you're a bounty hunter. I didn't realize this. Last week I did B for bounty hunter, thinking like Samus, and it's like, no, everybody in F-Zero is like a bounty hunter. I should have known it, but I didn't know that Captain Falcon was a bounty hunter.
That's great. I look forward to talking more about F-Zero with you on Thursday, because I think I've got like 2 or 3 more things on my list from F-Zero. The rest of the games that I picked up almost exclusively. So like, I've already got the Metroid games. I picked up one of the 3 Castlevanias. I'm going to pick up the other 2 at some point. And then almost everything else is tactical RPGs, right? There's 2 Advance Wars, 2 Fire Emblems, and Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. It's just a lot, and I know I'm never going to get to it all. But I feel so comforted having all of them on my Wii U, which is never going to die or go out of style.
I know. I am like hearing you talk about it makes me wish so much that I had a Wii U just for this experience, because there are a lot of GBA games that I would love to revisit, but I don't really have a good way to do it. Like, they're not on Switch. I'm not going to buy a GBA because I don't want to buy carts. Like,
it's criminal that it's not on Switch, that there isn't a GBA Switch online. Like, I know everyone's pulling for the Nintendo 64, but like the GBA, like just cut right to that. There's so many hidden gems there, and like none of them need to be remade or anything. Like, if rumors are that we're gonna get like a Mario 64 remaster, and like, great, good, we need that remaster. We need to clean up some textures. We need to clean up that camera. We need to widescreen, like all that stuff you don't need to do for a Game Boy Advance game. Just put it up there. It'll look great.
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
So it's another light week for new releases. I mean, that's not true. There's a lot of new releases. A light week for games that I have anything to say anything about.
Yeah, it's real tough. Do you want to go back and forth reading funny game titles?
Yeah, sure. So this one, I love this title because it poses such like, I feel like they pose this question in my like college ethics class. But also it's an anime that I'm like, I've never seen, but I remember when it started airing. So today, August 11th, everybody's favorite brain teaser, Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? Infinite Combat is released on Switch.
And then on Thursday, August 13th, Boomerang Fu is coming to the Switch.
Also, Pool Pro Gold.
Also, Darkestville Castle.
And then on, isn't that where Count Chocula lives? And then on August 14th...
It's like a dark chocolate joke? Is that what it is?
On August 14th, Friday, Shaolin versus Wu-Tang is released on the eShop.
I saw a thumbnail for Shaolin versus Wu-Tang, and I will confess, I think that's funny, and I would like to see the game in action. And then, of course, also on the 14th, Ramageddon comes out. Okay, those are all games we're not going to play next week, but instead, let's close this out. Now it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance, 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, why don't you introduce the subject today?
Yeah, I would love to bring your attention to this list from eatthis.com of the most popular sodas by state. Now, before we dive into this list, I think an interesting thing to note is that this is not a list of popularity by consumption. This is a list of what they did is they looked at the topic soft drinks in each state through Google Trends, and we're able to see what the most popular searched drinks are in each state. So do you think, Patrick, my first question is that this is uh like, what is this telling us? Is this are searches a fair representation of people's like tastes?
Yeah, because searches could just represent things that people are curious about or that they don't already know about. There's no reason for you to do a search for 7 Up because you've had 7 Up,
Right,
right?
but then you look at this list, like we'll just start at the very beginning. Alabama's list was Dr. Pepper. So I feel like people in Alabama are familiar with Dr. Pepper,
Hmm.
and it is not necessarily like breaking new ground where everybody's like, I'm not going to drink it, but what's this Dr. Pepper I've been hearing about?
Well, maybe in Alabama they just keep having that conversation where someone's like, there are 23 flavors in Dr. Pepper, and someone's like, 23 flavors? I can't even name 23 flavors. And the other person's like, sure, grape, cherry, and then like they get down to like the 7th or 8th, and then they're like, I don't know, look it up, and then they have to Google Dr. Pepper.
One thing I'd be interested to see is compare this list to a list of consumption, because like Arkansas,
Yes.
their like most searched according to eatthis.com was ginger ale. But it's like, where does ginger ale fall in consumption for Arkansas?
Okay, so I would assume that people Googling ginger ale want to know if ginger ale actually does settle your stomach. I have an answer for every single one of these.
That's great. California cream soda.
I don't think I can answer that question on this show.
Delaware is like Alabama. I can see the two of them shaking hands because they also are interested in Dr. Pepper. Lots of places want to know about Squirt. Georgia wants to know about this thing called
Again,
knee-high.
again, I don't think I can answer the question about Squirt. But is there a like surgeon somewhere named Dr. Pepper who's being like sued for malpractice or something? Like, what
In
is it
Alabama
possible?
no, it's totally
Delaware?
possible. One thing that I think is disappointing, and I feel like for whatever reason that this reflects poorly on the people of Hawaii, theirs is Diet Coke.
Hmm.
Well,
I
so they share that with Idaho, by the way.
I would guess for Hawaii that it is not Hawaiians searching for Diet Coke, but it is, the army people who have just been assigned there, and
Mm-hmm.
tourists who are just looking for a place where they can get a nice Diet Coke. They've had, a few too many, fancy Mai Tais or like, some kind of like tiki drinks, and they're like, look, I just want to have a Diet Coke tonight.
Maryland's is Jones Soda. Are you familiar with Jones Soda?
I am familiar with Jones Soda. In the early days of my courting Sarah, I hate the way that sounds, but before we started dating, I bought her a like sampler of fancy Thanksgiving themed Jones sodas, and Jones will do those like kind of bizarre flavors. And like what there was like mashed potatoes, there
Mm-hmm.
was Brussels sprouts, there was like turkey and gravy, and they're all sugar free. Is that right? They were
I don't.
bad sodas.
Yeah, really, with flavors like mashed potatoes. Jones Soda reminds me so much of high school that it's like,
Mm,
wow, like it's great to know that the residents of Maryland and like 14-year-old Mark would get along so
yeah,
well.
same wavelength. Same with me and Indiana, or 12-year-old me and Indiana. There's a Sierra Mist. Here's another quick Sarah story. One time we were at a restaurant and I ordered a Sierra Mist in college, and she would not stop laughing at me because she was like, "Who orders a Sierra Mist? You order 7 Up, and when they say Sierra Mist, okay, you say yes, or a
Well, see,
Sprite, I guess."
I was about. Well, I guess we'll never know.
I
Michigan's is
guess
Slurpees, which I don't think should count. That's a food.
it's certainly not a soda. We were accompanied today by Wall of Sound. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
So probably the biggest news of the week, Pikmin 3 Deluxe was revealed for Switch in like a weird early morning tweet from Nintendo. So it's a kind of like, as we've seen with the other deluxe versions of Wii U games, it's a port that includes like all of the DLC and all that kind of stuff, but also has, I think, a new story mode that you can play in. Or sorry, the story mode is not new. The fact that you can play in local co-op is new.
Yes.
So it's going to be coming to the Switch on October 30th for $60. And Patrick, I want to get your read on how you're feeling that Nintendo is announcing it for October.
Yeah, so that is the biggest red flag for me. That this announcement that we're getting a port of a well loved but not widely loved Nintendo franchise for the end of October, kinda is a little like the doom and gloom is the forecast that I see here. That like that's so far away. If it was any sooner and left like any more room for there to be like the Mario reissues that are rumored and that we were talking about earlier, like man, I don't know. This feels like a bad omen to me. Um, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Mark?
Yeah, well, so Pikmin is a series that I like feel nothing about. So I really haven't played the other two. I'm not like excited for this. Might end up picking it up. I guess we'll see. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's uh I don't know. I'm of two minds. I think that by putting it out there in October, they're kind of like telling us that, you know, they probably have like a holiday title that maybe it's those Mario remasters that are, or whatever it is going to be, that's
Yeah,
going to come in like the November, like Black Friday timeframe.
but it sure
But
seems like that's gonna be it though,
it
right? Like,
does feel that way. The one thing I will say is that Nintendo is unpredictable, so it is possible that they're putting this out here for October, but that they still have something coming in September. My like first like instinct was like, okay, they're putting this out in October. Maybe we're getting Bravely Default 2 in September, but they're not like announcing it because they're just publishing it in the US and they're not like actually developing it. Like I I don't know. It doesn't
I mean,
feel great.
it doesn't feel great, and they're both like hyper niche games, right? Like the people who are going to play Bravely Default 2 are going to really like it, and there's going to be an audience for it. And ditto Pikmin 3, but like those aren't the Animal Crossing audience. Those aren't the Smash audience. Those aren't the Mario, the Zelda, the Mario Kart. Like uh it's just not a megaton announcement. It is something that like appears on a direct with a megaton announcement, and then like at the end of your conversation about the megaton announcement you say, and Pikmin 3 is coming out too.
I mean, they're definitely not treating it like a megaton announcement, right?
No,
And so
totally.
I think that's notable that they're just like kind of putting it out there. It's a nice package. $60 is, you know, a lot, I would say, but I've also paid for the remaster of New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe, and I paid for Tropical Freeze Deluxe. But I guess like I'm cautiously optimistic and remain to hold out hope because we like in August there have always, even when we were in August, we never really had a full
Yeah.
picture of everything that Nintendo had planned in the past. Like Ring Fit Adventure, like that was like a total left field weird surprise that ended up launching in October last year, I think. And so I don't think that like the book has been written on Nintendo's 2020, but it is definitely not making me feel um like super awesome about what the rest of the year holds.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, like, I don't want to be too down on this development because, like, Pikmin 3 is a good game. I did play it, or I played a good amount of it on Wii U when it originally came out. And so, like, I like the game. It is a good game and a good Pikmin game, and will, have a chance at like a real audience on Switch. I don't know if the people who pick it up that had been playing Animal Crossing, for example, are going to feel the same sort of like attachment to it that they did to that game. It Pikmin is a much more like punishing. Not that it's like super hard, but that like it is a resource intensive kind of game. And like when you don't manage your resources right, you can back yourself into a corner where it's just sort of like game over, where you just run out of time and you run out of juice and you're just like, that's it. I'm done. I have to stop. And that's sort of the antithesis of Animal Crossing, which is just hang out for a little bit more and you'll get more resources. You'll be able to keep going. So yeah, I mean, I don't I
I
don't want to be too
think
down on it, but
to
yeah,
that
I
point,
think it's important.
I think I read somewhere that they're adding new difficulty modes to it, and
Okay.
so it's possible that like some of the resource issues, if you choose like one of the easier, like more novice ones, that like may not be that big of a problem. But I can't I can't pinpoint where I read that, so that may not actually be true. Um,
Yeah, I think the only things that we know for sure that are new in this, and this is right from Nintendo's description of the game on their website, is there are new side story missions featuring Olimar and Louis. You can play the whole story mode in local co-op, all the DLC stages from the original release, and there are competitive modes, including head-to-head bingo battles and online leaderboards for mission mode. So that's what we know for sure. I'm guessing there will be other things here and there that come to the surface as it's released. But I'll be interested to see how they adapt the like control scheme, because one of the things that they patched in later in Pikmin 3 was the touchscreen controls on the Wii U gamepad. I wonder if that'll still be available here, or if maybe they are patching in like pointer controls with the Joy Cons, or what. Kind of the sky's sort of the limit here for what the control options could be.
Yeah, and we're gonna go into more specifics about like Nintendo's financial report and like its sales numbers in a little bit, but I guess like it is a valid question. I'm sure they would like to have, knowing what we know right at this moment, right? Like to by the time this is posted, Nintendo could announce another direct or whatever. Like
Yeah,
anything
totally.
could change. But knowing what we know right now, I guess like I'm assuming that Nintendo uh, had more in the works for this year before COVID-19 messed everything up. But I also wonder if, given like the success of Animal Crossing, New Horizons, and the Switch in general, at least this last quarter that ended June 2020, like maybe they don't really need it. Like maybe they don't need like a
Hmm.
gangbuster holiday, and they can, I guess, kind of just like get by with doing like these sort of like Pikmin 3 Deluxe releases.
Which like can feel like a bummer, but if it means that they are devoting their resources and their time to really making sure Metroid Prime 4 or Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 are like really great, polished, rich, full experiences, then like maybe that's an okay trade-off.
Before we move on, one last thing with Pikmin 3 that's kind of like gross a little bit. So previously Pikmin 3 was available on the Wii U eShop for $20, and Nintendo like quietly delisted that after they announced Pikmin 3 Deluxe for Switch, which like look, like, yeah, it was $20 for the base game. It didn't include like the DLC, but still it's a little gross.
As yeah, I mean, especially considering like the people who had the Wii U in the first place and who still have the Wii U, like I think that's going to be a lot harder sell for people to like buy it a second time. You know what I mean? Than like Mario Kart. I bought Mario Kart twice. Um, uh, or new. Although I guess I didn't buy Tropical Freeze or New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe twice. But like I probably wasn't going to do this one either. But like if the number of people that already or that own a Wii U now is so low compared to the number of people who are just going to buy it on Switch anyway. Like,
Exactly.
why take away? Like, I get it. I get where it feels bad to have one product for $20 and another product for $60, and they both say Pikmin 3 on them. But like, that's the world you're in. And also, taking it off the eShop does not take it out of the world. Pikmin 3 is readily available in physical copies, both new in box and used for $20 or less. So it's not it's not hard to find the game for Wii U. And I don't know why they would be taking it off their eShop. It just seems weird and petty.
Yeah, I completely agree. So diving a little bit more into Nintendo's, I think it was their first quarter results. But it was the quarter that
Yes.
ended in at the end of June 2020. So that quarter was the best first quarter that Nintendo has ever had. Nintendo's total Switch sales are up to 61.44 million as of June 30th, 2020. So it's a little over 3 years since it was released. For reference, the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, sold 61.91 million units. And former Nintendo of America president Reggie Fils-Aimé pointed out on Twitter that probably by this time, Switch has like outsold the NES.
Yeah, because it was less than 500,000 behind, and it's been a couple weeks since then, and just at the rate the thing has been selling, it almost certainly has outsold the NES by this point, which is crazy.
So as far as Nintendo home consoles go, that leaves just the Wii at 101.63 million. So the gap is still pretty large, but really impressive performance for the Switch so far.
Look, this is a pointless prognosticating, but do you think there is a chance that the Switch could sell more than the Wii?
Yeah, never say never. Sure, I think there's a
Yeah.
chance. For the quarter ending June 30th, 2020, Nintendo's operating profits are up 428% from the same period in 2019.
Which is an alarming percentage. 428% up. Yeah, it means that they're making a lot more money. Though, I did want to point this out. I've not seen anyone else raise this, that from April to June 2019, so the same period that we're comparing it to, the big releases were Yoshi's Crafted World, Labo VR, and then at the very, very end of the quarter, Super Mario Maker 2. So it's not like they had a bunch of like really gangbuster software out there to drive more units. It was also before the release of the Switch Lite. So, I think the new hardware SKU plus Animal Crossing plus Pandemic has really juiced the numbers from this year. And for last year was just sort of in a little bit the doldrums.
Yeah, and I mean, Animal Crossing continues to be an out-and-out phenomenon. Like, there's no real other way to put it. It sold 10.63 million copies last quarter for a total sales of 22.4 million. And this is just since the game launched in March, at the end of March, on a single
March
platform.
20th,
Yeah, just on Switch. It's already the second best-selling title of the year so far, behind Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and also the second best-selling game on Switch behind Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, 26.74 million. Reminder, that game came out in like April or May 2017,
May,
just like shortly after the Switch was released. And think about it, like they're saying that the Switch has sold almost 62 million units, and 2.5 million people have already picked up Animal Crossing. I mean, it's just bonkers.
Yeah, and no, it's like a third of Switch users have it. Actually, yes, it's so many. It's almost half of Switch users have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It's a lot.
It's so much. Per Engadget, Animal Crossing New Horizons helped Nintendo reach software sales of 50.43 million for the quarter, which is more than double what the company recorded for the same period last year.
Which again just goes to show you that no one was buying Yoshi's Crafted World.
And
just
then
me and Taylor.
Then the rest of Nintendo's exclusive library, is like the legs on it have been really incredible. So the rest of Nintendo's top 10, we already know Mario Kart is number 1, Animal Crossing New Horizons is number 2, number 3 is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at almost 20 million, Zelda Breath of the Wild at 18.6 million, Pokemon Sword and Shield at number 5 at 18.22 million, Super Mario Odyssey at a little over 18 million, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee at 12.2 million, Super Mario Party at 10.94 million, Splatoon 2 at 10.71, New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe at 7.44. Yeah, it's just, I mean, look at Sword and Shield up there, 18.22 million. I think it's like the third best-selling Pokemon game of all time at this point.
I mean, it is absolutely wild that Nintendo has 20-ish million sellers, Super Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, and Animal Crossing New Horizons, that like that's enormously successful for all of these games. Also, why is it? It should be an enormous story that both Super Mario Party and Splatoon 2 are both over 10 million sellers.
Yeah, yeah, like that's crazy. It's crazy to me that Super Mario Party is almost has
Almost
sold
11 million.
more. Yeah, has sold more than Splatoon 2. Also, not on this list, but um Ring Fit Adventure has sold like 4 million units.
Yep.
It's just
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's
wild.
nuts.
And when we're talking about like those 20 million sellers, like all of those, that means that those games are bigger platforms than the Wii U was, right? Like those individual
Right.
games. And even the Super Mario Party thing at almost 11 million, it makes me like I can't fathom why they haven't continued to support these games with like additional DLC, especially something like Mario Party, where like you just put another couple boards in there and like people will eat it up, to say nothing of, we've talked about it before, but Super Mario or Mario Kart 8 Deluxe should have DLC every 6 months. Put out one new cup and I'll pay whatever you want me to pay for it.
Yeah.
Because I just want the most complete version of the best Mario Kart out there. I just want it.
Yeah. Oh man, that would be so much fun. I would love new cups for Super Mario 8 Deluxe.
Ugh.
Super Smash Bros. Ultimate got a 8.1.0 update last week.
They support that one.
It introduced a new stage, which is like a smaller version of Battlefield, which I thought was interesting. I wonder if that's like a response to just like player request or something. Um,
Yeah,
like
it's unclear. I know that the platforms are a little bit lower, so they're more accessible without having to do like double jumps or like
mm-hmm.
a jump and then an up B or whatever. So it just sort of makes for a more like tidy, like one-on-one sort of experience. Um, but yeah, I don't. I'm not like super deep in the Smash community, so I don't really know if that is something that the players have been requesting. But that is totally possible.
Yeah, I just wonder what like the genesis for something like that is. And then also they have the improved online experience. The patch notes mention, quote, further investigations and adjustments to online mode are expected, which is kind of like the first time that they've really acknowledged that the online experience like needs those like tweaks in the first place.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple different like fighting game message boards and sites making a little bit of a meal about this, because while I don't know if a new stage is something that Smash players were asking for, I do know that improved netcode is something that they have been asking for. Latency is a real issue in playing Switch online, and especially now as all fighting game playing is going online, and no one can play in person anymore. That it has really made the competitive scene for Smash kind of drop off the map. So the sites that I go to for this sort of thing have been seeing this as like an acknowledgement by Nintendo that like this needs to change, and that they are like actively looking into how to do it. So even the sites I was reading was saying that like probably won't be able to a casual player probably won't notice the difference, but like the people who are counting frames right now know the difference when they're playing Smash Online.
So both the Insane Trilogy Collection and the Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled games and came to Switch. They're entries in the Crash Bandicoot series. So I guess the question is Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, also going to come to Switch? Right now, the only officially announced platforms for the new game are PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, but the source code for the official website makes reference to a Switch version, so it makes a ton of sense that it would eventually.
Yeah, is Crash Bandicoot a series that tracks anything for you, or I
No.
I, I I put this news item on here as just a little bit of a curiosity, because it does seem like that's a it feel, because it's like a mascot platformer, it feels like a Nintendo adjacent, like a Funhouse mirror version of a Nintendo game. And you know, it's been interesting to see like the success of the revival of the series. And sort of weird that the fourth one wasn't announced for Switch from the get go. But it's I guess neat to know that it is buried in the in the code for the website somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it like we also saw it with Spyro, right? Like not initially
Hmm.
announced and then eventually came. It would not shock me if that ends up being the case for Crash Bandicoot 4 as well. Speaking of games coming to Switch, Braid Anniversary Edition was revealed at the PlayStation State of Play last week. Um, this is a game that originally came out in 2007. It's a puzzle platformer. Probably like it was by far not the first indie game, but it was definitely the first into my memory, the first indie game that garnered like a ton of press coverage, not just about the game, but about like the story and the meaning and all of that behind it. And especially for its creator, Jonathan Blow. A remaster of the game is coming to every major platform, including Switch, at some point in early 2021.
Yeah, and this was a cool, if sort of strange, announcement trailer that started with some like really high definition render of like a hand opening a box and like puzzle pieces like making themselves, and like ripped up pieces of paper like coming together to form a piece of paper in reverse, sort of like, you know, calling the themes of Braid,
Mm-hmm.
where the principal mechanic of Braid is that you are able to reverse time, and that you have to like use that for puzzle solving. Um, and yeah, it was just weird that they showed all of that, all of those kind of gameplay ideas in a almost photorealistic like movie thing, and then we're just like, oh no, it's just Braid. And so like it's the same game, but all of the visuals are getting touched up. Evidently, when they when Jonathan Blow was making the game originally, he teamed up with an artist to do, you know, all of the assets for the game, and that was evidently like the big expense. It was like just him and this artist. And at the time when it came to actually inputting all of these sprites into the game, they sort of created them all twice, because the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 weren't capable of displaying as many pixels as, you know, the artist's actual. And I keep saying the artist. I'm sorry, I don't know his name or her name. The same like kind of fidelity. So they sort of had two versions of everything, and this version is restoring all of that like high definition art, and everything has a sort of like impressionistic, painterly, like brush stroke feel to it. Everything, all of the new graphics that I saw for this look really great. The music is supposed to be remastered. There are commentary tracks throughout the game, and you can like toggle on and off. Like, I'm interested in puzzle design and art and programming, but I'm not interested in whatever whatever other topic I didn't already list there. So I mean, it seems like a really robust version of this game, and this is a game that I loved. I don't know if you played through Braid, Mark, but you know, was a game that I really really liked.
Yeah, I did play through Braid on the 360. Yeah, I remember really liking it too. I came to it late after it had already had like a ton of press and a lot of conversation around it. But I remember it being like, especially it was one of the first like indie games that I played, and this was back. I think I bought it on
Yeah.
like the Xbox Indie Arcade or Indiecade. Like it had its own separate section. Like it was indie games felt very new to me, and so that I think added to the novelty of the whole experience.
I played through Braid like once shortly after it came out, and then skip ahead to when I first moved to Los Angeles. I drove out here with my brother. He was just kind enough to like come with, and then like, you know, fly back to Wisconsin. Um, but Sarah was following me later, and we also had like pods with all of our furniture and stuff. So I had very few things in the car with me, right? I had like a suitcase, I had the TV, I had like a cooler with like some snacks and water and stuff, and I had my PlayStation 3. And so like when we end like a sleeping bag, I think. So Jack and I get to LA. We look at apartments for a while. We find an apartment. We're staying with my cousin for a couple days. Then like the night before my brother flies out, we finally get like access to the apartment. So he and I are staying in this apartment with nothing in it. I'm sleeping on a jacket. He's sleeping. He's sleeping in a sleeping bag. And I set up the TV, and we watch some like DVDs or something. And then that next morning, I take Jack to the airport, and he flies, and I don't see him for a while, and it's not till the next day that Sarah arrives with our stuff. So I have one day in Los Angeles where I have no furniture. I know no one, and I'm in a new apartment, a new neighborhood. Like I had nothing. I went for a walk, and I played through Braid from cover to cover, on the TV that was sitting on top of a cooler in my empty apartment on Gramercy in Hollywood. So the game's always going to have like a soft spot in my heart.
A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the rumor that WB Games, including Rocksteady, TT Games, and NetherRealm Studios, could be sold off from Warner Brothers. But last week, Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar released a general organizational statement which addressed a number of things. But some news outlets are grabbing onto the following statement as suggestive of their intent not to sell WB Games. And it says, quote, Warner Brothers Interactive remains part of the studios and network group, end quote.
Which sounds at once definitive and also not very assertive, right? Like
Right.
he's saying they remain part of our entertainment group, as if to say we have not made this sale yet. But that combined with some of his comments in a Deadline interview make it sound like WB Games is going to continue to be a part of Warner Media and AT&T in general. In particular, the interview, he keeps pointing back to the idea that the company is focusing on direct-to-consumer products rather than wholesale products, which, if you think about them selling the Warner Brothers studios and then licensing the IP back to those studios so they can continue making the games that they're known for, that sounds like wholesale to me, right? So if they want to control like the whole pipeline there and be getting those things directly to consumers, it sounds like what they want is to continue to own and operate the WB studios.
And speaking of Rocksteady, did you see the teaser? The poster, I guess, is really all we've seen so far for their Suicide Squad game.
Oh, you bet I did. I really like the Batman Arkham games, and am looking forward to whatever Rocksteady does next. Suicide Squad. Okay, I mean, I don't know. I trust them, so it'll be fine. The poster is, and I say it'll be fine. It'll probably be great. But right now I'm like, okay, all right, show me when you got something to show me. The poster is like a target on Superman's head, and the sort of like X in the middle of the target is made up of the words suicide and squad, sort of connecting at the U/the C, which is an interesting logo treatment that I don't think I've ever seen with Suicide Squad before, and anyone using it in that way specifically. So as a fan of that specific element of graphic design, I'm all about this.
Yeah,
Mark, are you interested in the Suicide Squad?
I'm interested to see what they have. Yeah, for sure. Like I enjoyed the Batman games. Some more than others, but I'm interested to see what this is. If it is, how much it takes from like the Batman games, or how much it is them doing something different. And we won't have to wait that long. DC Fandom is August 22nd, and it's expected that more will be revealed there.
Yeah, and hopefully we also get the like next Batman game that WB Montreal, the studio that did Arkham Origins, that they're working on. Yeah, I'm very much interested in seeing what's coming out of those studios next.
Kind of big news in the fighting game world, especially for Street Fighter and Capcom. Yoshinori Ono, who has been the face of Capcom's fighting games since Street Fighter 4 and has been with the series a long time, announced his retirement last week. Ono had most recently been acting as brand manager for Street Fighter, and yeah, like it feels like a momentous thing to have him moving on from Capcom.
Yeah, Ono-san is great. Anytime that there's any Street Fighter news, going over to his social media or like reading collections of his social media posts on other websites is always just a dang delight. The guy had Blanca is his favorite character, and he would always like have a little like toy Blanca that he would like hold up and like talk to while like giving announcements for like new Street Fighter characters. And he worked on he was like one of the lead producers on Street Fighter 4. He worked on the Darkstalker series. He's been with Capcom for 27 years. The man is an institution and is generally loved by everyone in the fighting game community. It was nice to see like a little like outpouring of other prominent members of the fighting game community, including people like Ed Boon at NetherRealm Studios. Really like paying their respects to the guy. And it'll be it's good on him for going out on his own terms and all of that, but it'll be sad to see him go.
Yeah, it comes on the heels of rumors that Street Fighter 6 has had like some development problems. A game that that Ono was supposed to have been directing, but that was, according to the rumors, recently rebooted under a new director. And so, yeah, it's man, working at like a single place for 25 years, that is so hard for me to fathom, honestly. Like I can't imagine how hard it must be. I mean, I guess actually I don't know, maybe after 25 years you're like
maybe you don't care.
ready to be doing something else.
Oh, I hate this, it turns out.
But that's like more like a more than a quarter of his life up to this point. That's
totally.
long commitment to a company. You must really enjoy it in order to put that much time into it.
I mean, it's probably about half of his life. I don't know how old Yoshinori Ono is, but 27 years. If he's 54, that's half of his life.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I hadn't read anything about Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 5, they're still doing a fifth season of DLC characters.
Well, that is part of the rumor. So the reports, like the rumor is that Street Fighter 6 got delayed because it's getting rebooted under a new director, and so they are doing a new season in order to fill the new like the gap formed by it.
And they recently announced 4 out of 5 of those characters, and one of them is Akira from Rival Schools. So they're bringing in like weird guest characters, and there's still one more Street Fighter 5 character yet to be announced. Still one that hasn't been announced.
Do you think it'll be RoboCop or Terminator?
No, I think that is strictly a Mortal Kombat movie.
And finally, Tetris 99 is hosting a new Tetris Maximus Cup, but kind of an atypical one. Starting this Friday, August 14th, and going all the way through next week, Saturday, August 22nd. They're holding one called the Second Chance Edition, and it'll allow players to pick up 3 of the recent themes. All you have to do is just play on the days in question and score at least 50 points, so half the points you would normally need to score. Round 1 is Animal Crossing's New Horizon from Friday, August 14th to Sunday, August 16th. Round 2 is Luigi's Mansion 3 from Monday the 17th through Wednesday the 19th. And finally, round 3 is Ring Fit Adventure from the 20th to the 22nd.
Which is perfect if you missed any of these. It's a fun way to spice up your Tetris 99. And look, I know there's no reason for me to go back in and participate in this Tetris Maximus, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna get Animal Crossing again, Luigi's Mansion again, and Ring Fit Adventure again. You have all of these, Mark.
I think I have all of them. I think the ones I'm missing is, I think there's like a Kirby one that I didn't get. I need to go back and look. I think these 3 I have. Ring Fit Adventure, that one, when was that one? Was that one recent?
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, it feels like that was a while ago.
Oh, okay, so that one I may not have either. So yeah, I potentially will be doing these for the first time.
This sort of announcement is something that I feel like should be in my regular line of sight because I like Tetris 99 so much. But it wasn't until like gathering the news for today that I ran across this item, and I'm just like, where are they announcing this stuff? Mind you, I'm not really on Twitter anymore, so maybe the answer is it's on Twitter, Patrick, and that's you don't see it because you're not there.
When did they? Do you know what? I totally forgot what I was going to announce. What I was going to say. Something about Tetris Max. Oh, this is what I was going to ask you.
Yes.
What theme is your default theme? Which one do you normally play on?
Splatoon 2, baby.
Me too. That's so funny. Like I get all of these themes, but then I like the Splatoon 2 one is my favorite. And so when I'm playing normally, I just leave it on that.
The Splatoon 2 one is wonderful. The only thing that I think is a bummer about it is when you get into the top 10, it does the music from the final 30 seconds of every Splatoon match. And that is perfectly timed to the last 30 seconds of a Splatoon match. But you can be in the top 10 of Tetris 99 for minutes, 10 whole minutes even. And the music is so like... It's too much.
I've got to tell you, that's a problem I've maybe had once if I was lucky. So I can't really relate, but I take your word for it.
All right, let's get out of the news. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Mark asked you nice at the beginning of the episode, so we would really appreciate it. If you like the episode, you can share it on Facebook or Twitter, wherever you share stuff. We appreciate it when you do that. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com. or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.
Hey, Rachel, Oscar.
Yeah, Claire?
Do you love Disney movies?
Uh-huh.
Have you seen them all?
Not all of them.
What do you guys think if we watch them all in chronological order and then talk about them?
Ooh. Oh, and what if we could talk about it with some of our favorite friends?
I love that.
Yeah, and what if we do it inside the Disney Vault?
You know, that's the name of our podcast, Inside the Disney Vault on Campfire Media.
Yeah, check us out on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to yours.
That's Inside the Disney Vault.
Let's go!
Woo!
Campfire.